Yes, hello everyone. Fáilte Jock Goody, Cúilín Media once again. Welcome back to another weekend preview show here on Cúilín Media. My name is Seamus Brady. I'm joined by Liam White and Matthew Hurley for the opening bit of the pod. Hopefully, lads, we'll get Aaron to join us at some stage. But boys, big weekend. Obviously, ahead in action in the club championships, but then also we have quite big GA news to dive into. I'll start with you, Liam, first. How are you keeping?
Yeah, not too bad. Looking forward to the weekend again. Some cracking games all across the country. Some county finals to look forward to as well. And it's been there's never a normal week. What was that old phrase? One normal week of Barclays, or one normal day of Barclays, is all I ask for. And you're certainly not going to get a normal week in the GEA circle. So looking forward to the show, and looking forward to cracking into it.
Absolutely. Matthew, how have you been keeping, man?
Yeah, good, Seamus. Yeah, it's interesting enough few weeks and stuff like that for the club championship, and obviously in my home there was the Cork football happening this weekend, and for once on Clover, I think for the first time in a long while, there's a whole host of games being shown in the Cork football championship, which is actually brilliant to see. But we'll see what does happen in that championship, and of course the Kerry Intermediate final looks like a very good game as well. Obviously the Managerial merry-go-round, we thought it'd be maybe as entertaining as disaster. It doesn't seem to be that way. Only, as far as I can count, only one county are without a manager at this present moment in time in Fermanagh, and obviously that could change in the next few weeks as well. So that's very, very interesting as well, looking at all that. So a lot to get into.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to start, as we've been led on here by Peter Griffin. He says, hey lads, just listen to Ger Brennan interviewed by Tommy Rooney on Off the Ball. Clucko 100% not playing and solely selector and coach. The retirement statement. And you've led us on very nicely there, Peter. Stephen Cluxton retires is where we're going to start. Lads, if he does go, he is, in my opinion, without question, the greatest Gaelic footballer of all time in goal. And you could very well make the case that he is the greatest Gaelic footballer of all time. I mean, you think about it, lads. When it comes to revolutionising a position, when it comes to changing the game, when it comes to upping the standards, when it comes to leaving a legacy, whenever people talk about their greatest team of all time, whenever people talk about who is your all-time 15, midfield is always a debate, forwards is always a debate, goalkeepers, never really a debate. And there's only one of them. There's 6 forwards, yet people always struggle to pick 6. Goalkeeper, it's usually a slam dunk. Usually most people pick Cluxton. In my opinion, if he goes, there's a case for him being the best that Dublin have ever had, the best that the game has ever had. Liam, what do you think first as a fellow Leinsterman?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I don't think we've ever seen a better goalkeeper than Cluxton. And I don't even mean just as a football person. I think even just as a person in general, for the morals that he had, the standards that he set, the way he conducted himself both on and off the pitch. The only disappointing thing was he never. I'm a big fan of someone who, when they do win the All-Ireland and they're going up as captain, they absolutely just hoist the trophy over their head, like going absolutely mental and screaming and shaking it and fearing that they might drop it or break the hold or something like that. Whereas he didn't, and that's fine. That's the way he did it. But other than that, class act. Everyone will always remember the kick against Kerry in 2011 to win the All-Ireland. But for me, just his presence in goal, the way he conducted himself on the pitch, the way he kind of set up the play for Dublin for the last number of years as well. It's amazing. Only he could step away from winning a 6th All-Ireland, come back after 3 years or 2 years away, and then win another All-Ireland in 2023. Like, it's remarkable. 9 All-Irelands, I believe it is, 9 All-Irelands. And I mean, I don't want to count how many Leinsters he has. But yeah, no, it's an incredible record what he's done. And you know what? It's probably the right time as well for him to maybe step away. Look, he is 43 years old at the end of the day. I know his club at the moment there's a bit of going on there in the background as well, and there's been issues with that over the last couple of years. But yeah, and look, Ger Brennan couldn't have asked for, in my opinion, a better role model, a better man to join in with his coaching team next year. He's basically confirmed in his interview that he won't be playing next year anyways. But a great servant to Dublin GEA, a great servant to GEA in general. And who knows, it'd be interesting to see if he makes a good manager. Could he potentially be a future Dublin manager?
I would say so. I think when you're looking at someone who has the mentality that he does, the consistency that he does, everything like that, There's no reason why he can't do it. Peter says here he's 44 next month. I mean, like it is incredible consistency. He also says Clucko started in 2001. He has seen some change, contributed change, and has to be considered the GOAT. Sean says Cluxton is the GOAT goalkeeper and we won't ever see a better one. But it's time now for somebody else to be given a chance, whether it become a Fred or O'Hanlon. He will be great to help and guide them. And then Dublin is great. Says Clucko was third on the All-Ireland Roll of Honour. I mean, absolutely mental. He has 9 All-Ireland medals. He has, I think, is it 17 Leinster medals? Like something crazy like that. And when you think about it, he came in 2001, as Peter said there, changed the game. And when people are discussing the greatest team of all time, the goalkeeper is the one that's the slam dunk. The goalkeeper is the one that there's minimal debate. Stephen Cluxton is the greatest goalkeeper we've ever seen in Gaelic football. He is one of the greatest players we've ever seen in Gaelic football, period. He defined that position. He changed the game in that position. He revolutionised goalkeeping, kicking that free over in the All-Ireland final in 2011, giving me as a Dublin fan, I was there in the stadium, I was 10 years old at the time, one of the happiest memories of my entire life. So I personally couldn't be more grateful to Stephen for the service he's given. One of the all-time greats. If he goes for good, which maybe he won't because he came back last time, but I think personally this probably is the end for him. I think going into coaching is the natural next step. But what a legend, what an icon. We will never see another goalkeeper. We'll never see another player like Stephen Cluxton. So Stephen, thanks for all the memories. Wish you all the best in your retirement and your coaching career, because you're going to smash it. I mean, I've no doubt he's going to smash it. Like, I mean, the consistency, the legacy that he has. Like, I mean, anything he sets his mind to, he seems to smash it. But the other thing as well is when you're talking about Stephen, and this is just me analysing how he is in terms of dealing with the media and everything like that. The man kicked over the winning free in an All-Ireland final in 2011. Dublin's first All-Ireland win in 16 years, and his immediate response was to run down the tunnel and run away from the celebrations because he didn't want it all to be focused on him. And in that moment, it would have all been focused on him, the man who kicked the match winner. So I don't think he really likes the spotlight too much. And I think he just loved the game so much, that's why he came back in 2023. But Cluxton was never going to retire the way that other players have gone, where they've stepped off the stage with a big statement and an announcement and a big hullabaloo. He was always going to try and sneak out the back door with minimal fuss, minimal fanfare, in a similar way to how Mick Fitzsimons went. I think he was always going to try and just quietly drift off into the sunset with his medals. Another legend, another one who changed the game. Absolutely unbelievable. I'm lost for words, Matthew. What would you put on that?
First of all, I put up a post on Instagram last week with the caption "Cluxton retires?" ? And a lot of people, especially on Facebook, were saying, "Who's saying retirement?" It was a question first of all, but second of all, I should just go out and predict the lotto numbers after this. I knew this would like he was going into the management team. It was always going to happen. And he's 44 next month, as Peter mentioned there. Like, what a servant he has been. And a lot of people point towards Rory Beggan, Niall Morgan, Sean Patton, to a lesser extent Shane Ryan from Kerry. But Cluxton was the guy that revolutionised Gaelic football goalkeeping. He was the guy that initially took 45s. I don't think any other goalkeeper regularly took 45s before Stephen Cluxton. I might be wrong on that, but he was the first major goalkeeper to do it. Even during the bad days with Dublin, he was still the most consistent player in the team. Like, you'd never seen Stephen Cluxton make a mistake, a bad mistake. And that's a testament to himself. He's a really, it's kind of weird to use the word consummate professional, because obviously Gaelic Games is an amateur sport. You're not getting paid for it. But Cluxton, that's kind of the language you'd use with Stephen Cluxton. He was that kind of guy. He carried himself so well on the pitch. Like, he wasn't going to do crazy celebrations or anything like that. He was just an absolutely outstanding footballer. And I'd agree with you completely that he is the best goalkeeper of all time. If anybody doesn't say he's the best goalkeeper of all time, sorry, you've never watched the sport. He is an absolutely incredible goalkeeper, an incredible legend for Dublin G. And if it is the last we've seen of Stephen Cluxton, what a servant. Absolutely brilliant. As you mentioned, there's 17 Leinster titles thereabouts, 9 All-Ireland championships, which is absolutely incredible with Fitzsimons and James McCarthy, obviously. Like, it's just an unbelievable career. And, like, to play since 2001 and go to 2025, absolutely outstanding and an absolutely brilliant career for Stephen Cluxton. It just occurred to me as well, weird kind of a stat, Gaelic Games with movie culture. During Stephen Cluxton's career, every Spider-Man movie has been released. That's an incredible piece of trivia there.
Well, the other one as well, just for me personally, I was born in 2001, so I have no recollection of life without Stephen Cluxton playing a goal for Dublin. I have no memory of when he wasn't possibly going to play in goal for us, because even the years where he was gone, it was constantly a debate of, is Stephen coming back? When is Stephen coming back? So I'm going to miss him, man. And like, there was one moment in the 2023 All-Ireland final, Liam, where I saw his influence like I'd never seen it before. It was Dublin had kind of capitulated in 2021. There'd been a bit of a lack of discipline in that semi-final defeat to Mayo. Cluxton was always seen as a standard bearer. He was always seen as someone who drove the standards in the camp, made sure that everything was up to scratch, up to a level that was adequate for playing for Dublin. You have to, hold yourself to a certain standard in order to wear that jersey. And that was why that Dublin team was so successful. One of the key reasons why that team was so successful. But in the 2023 All-Ireland final, Cluxton, who was only recalled into the team that year, there was a little incident in the All-Ireland final where I think Clifford and Brian Howard were kind of chirping at each other. Brian Howard turned around and went to go up and square up to David Clifford. Cluxton sprints out of the goal, grabs Brian Howard, pulls him away from that situation, shoves him off. Get over there now. Don't get involved in the nitty gritty. And I just in that moment, I was like, oh my God, this fella is such a captain. He's such a leader. He's such a guy that not only does he hold himself to all those standards, he makes sure that everyone else around him is on the same wavelength, on the same page. So not only do I think that he has been one of the greatest players, one of the greatest professionals, definitely the greatest goalkeeper we've ever seen, I think he has the potential to go on to be one of the great coaches, great managers that we see in the game as well. In terms of a personality, in terms of a man, he's one of the all-time greats. I know I'm a Dublin fan, but I think it's undeniable. I really think it's undeniable.
Yeah, no, his morals are something to behold. And that's the thing as well. Like, you feel like maybe if he wasn't in goals during that little spat, could Howard have been sent off potentially? Sometimes you just have a player on the pitch, and a lot of time it is a guy, whether it's in a club or a county, who everybody just respects. Nobody talks back to, everybody listens to, and they're the one driving everything forward. They've seen it all before, and they know what it takes to win. They know what it takes to, I suppose, keep the standards high on the pitch. And look, it's probably a good thing that he's staying with the Dublin footballers, for the management side of things, because now he's able to manage things from the sideline the same way that, especially as a goalkeeper, you see everything in front of you. So you can see every aspect of the pitch and seeing every little thing that a player is doing. And now he'd be able to do it from the management side as well. And, he'd be able to say to players, listen, we're not here to fight. We're not here to get involved in scraps. Or if a player is saying something to you, if a player's following you, whatever, just get on with the game and don't be worrying about it, because we need to win this game. So, no, I think it's actually an excellent appointment by Ger Brennan to be bringing him in to the management team. And yeah, look, it'll only give the younger lads in the Dublin panel and lads that'll be coming in over the next couple of years from the minors and the under-20s that little bit of inspiration as well, that they'll be they're going to be working with a player as influential and as successful as Stephen Cluxton. He can pass on that wisdom to them of what it's like to not only play for Dublin, but keep themselves professional off the pitch as well as on the pitch as well. And yeah, I mean, that's the best point of all. The fact that there was no statement from him, there was no big celebration or anything like that. Just simply, yeah, I'm gone. And that's that, no big deal. But that just speaks of the man himself. Never wanted the limelight, doesn't want to be in the newspapers or anything like that. Just simply plays the game and that's it. It's like Roy Keane. It's my job and that's that, But yeah, look, it's an incredible feature from him to not only have won all those All-Irelands, but I think a bit like kind of Jim Gavin as well. Like, Jim Gavin won't be, in a way, probably remembered for the 5 in a row. His biggest legacy in a way will probably be creating the new rules in football. And, Cluxton, I feel, for me, more than his All-Ireland wins, the way he conducted himself on the pitch, and the leader that he is. I think he's going to be excellent for Dublin over the next couple of years, and that's probably something that I'll remember him more for than the All Ireland wins.
Absolutely. Cian says here, having won 9 All-Irelands and 17 Leinster titles, the Pubble Parnell clubman has revolutionised the role of the modern shot stopper. Thanks for everything, Stephen, and all the best in your new role. Do you know, I'm going to call him the Parnells, man. Like, the Pubble Parnell, like, that was out of his hands. And even in that situation where Parnells carried on like fucking lunatics with the money, the way that they were spending it, and they ended up running the club into the ground, Stephen Cluxton, in that situation, again, showed his morals, showed his character. When he walked away, requested a transfer away from the team because they were spending money bringing in players. That, again, showcased to me his morals, his principles, that he would never break them, that this was, to him, against what Gaelic Games was, against what GAA clubs were supposed to be, and he was willing to walk away from, at the time on paper, Parnells had one of the strongest teams in Dublin. They could have won that Dublin Championship on paper, and he was still willing to walk away from it. And that tells you the type of man that you're dealing with, and I've nothing but respect for him. Kieran Sharp says, how many more years do you think Neil McManus has left, and can he bring Rory Cushendall back to the All-Ireland final? I think Neil has a few good years left in him, to be honest. He still looks as sharp as ever. I think Rory Og probably won't make it to the final this year. Liam, you've picked them to win Ulster. Do you pick them to go to the All-Ireland final?
Well, my heart said, would you believe it, my heart actually thinks it will be a Rory O'Cushendall Kilcormac Lahi final, but that's my heart talking.
Wow.
But I feel like for the moment, I'd say my head would probably say that only I've predicted St. Thomas's to win the All-Ireland. I think Rory Og are good enough to get to an All-Ireland final. There's no question about it. Actually, no, wait, they can't meet each other because I know the Leinster champions have to play the Munster. Never mind, forget I said that. Rory O'Cushendall have to play Leinster or Munster. But honestly, there's no reason to suggest that they couldn't. Neil McManus is still going very, very strong. Could probably still do a job for, actually, no, not could. He would still do a job for Antrim, to be honest with you. He'd still be their best player, let's be honest about it. But yeah, look, you've players like him, you've players like TJ Reid, obviously Stephen Cluxton himself, all these players that are going into, Patrick Horgan as well, the players that are going into the latter stages of their careers. Yeah, there you go. The players are going into the latter stages of their careers and they're still wanting to keep playing at the top for as long as possible. It just shows, but it shows as well the conditioning of these players nowadays and how they're minding themselves off the pitch as well. That plays a big factor as well, because obviously it's a lot easier now to see players playing until they're 35, 36, 37 than it was, back 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, no, I do agree. And lads, the set is complete. Welcome, Aaron.
Well, how are we, lads? How's things? How are we?
Make sure that there's nothing mental in the corner of your screen there before the dimensions change.
All good, lads. No, I was listening to you chat about Cluxton there.
I'd love to get your opinion, man.
I think I kind of heard briefly what you were saying, Seamus and Liam as well. I think at some point it was gonna come to an end. We all thought it was going to be a couple of years ago, when it was due to happen, and he sort of left the panel for a couple of years and then came back. I think it's fair to say, look, obviously the age has caught up with him. There's no question about that. He doesn't get the same range on his kickouts, but I think this is the best thing, to be honest with you, because he goes into the backroom team, so you're still going to have that leadership. He's still going to be there, and he's still going to carry that kind of leadership that he would have carried with Dublin before. For the new goalkeeper that comes in, which will obviously be interesting to see, because there's been a lot of chopping and changing. Probably going to be Evan Comerford, but we know Dave O'Hanlon was there before. Desi tried out a few different goalkeepers this year as well. So the fact that Cluxton's going to be there as well to oversee that, to coach the goalkeeper as well, I think is going to be huge. So, I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, by far one of the greatest players to ever play the game. And I suppose when often do you say that about a goalkeeper,
Yeah, no, well said. There's no question about it. He leaves a legacy and huge boots to fill. Kieran says, cheers, man. Peter says, Niall Moynihan's in there with Jared to the guru of sports science. He's gone under the radar as a really, really shrewd appointment there, Niall Moyna as well. Like, I mean, the experience that he has is absolutely through the roof. We're going to move on from that story on then to new GA managerial appointments that have taken place this week. Matthew, you please jump in and correct me if I miss any here. So we have David Power returning to Tipperary management, but this time he's taking the Tipperary LGFA team. We have Gregory McGonigal retaking the Armagh senior LGFA position. Declan Bonner hasn't been appointed yet, but he is going forward to be interviewed for the Fermanagh job, and I'd like your opinion on that as well, lads. And then on top of that, Keith Higgins named the Mayo under-20 football manager, and Mark McHugh finally confirmed as the new Westmeath manager. Aaron, I'll go to you first. Out of them, which are kind of the main ones that stand out to you as being, this is going to be interesting?
Yeah, I think Mark McHugh going to Westmeath is very, very interesting. To be honest with you, like that's one that I think caught a lot of people by surprise. Like obviously Mark McHugh, he was Kilcue manager, wasn't he, last year?
I think he was in there. I think it was Lacey that was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I was mixing them up. Yeah, it was Lacey who was a manager, but I think Mark McHugh might have been involved there. So no, I think it's a great appointment by Westmeath. Like especially after Dermot McCabe obviously going to Cavan, which probably was a bit of a disappointment. You know, they didn't plan for McCabe to be leaving, and he obviously goes to his native county. So that's fair enough. But no, very, very curious to see how this goes. Westmeath have lost a lot of players over the last couple of years as well. A lot of lads have gone travelling. There's been retirement. So it'd be interesting to see, can you get the likes of Ron O'Toole maybe back in the team, back in the panel? Can they get excited by this? Like Leinster, although, look, Dublin under new management, I'm sure will want to right the wrongs of last year. But it does feel like Leinster's a bit more open now, in my opinion. And I think Westmeath, like, don't get me wrong, you would have Meath and Louth as probably 2 and 3, whatever order you want to put them in. And, you know, Dublin, Meath, Louth, whatever order you want to put them 3 in. But, like, I think Westmeath are very close to that. Like, I don't think they're a million miles off. So, yeah, I think it'd be very interesting. Obviously, I suppose, a prodigy of Jim McGuinness. So we'll obviously see how he gets on there as well. So, no, I think it's a very good appointment by Westmeath. And, yeah, Declan Bonner going to Fermanagh is an interesting one as well. If that obviously does happen, I think that would be great for Fermanagh as well, to get a man like Declan Bonner in, who I think his time with Donegal kind of went under the radar a little bit. Like, he won a couple of Ulster titles there. He never quite got them over a quarter final, and they had a couple of mishaps along the way, especially towards the end. But I think he got them to like 4 or 5 Ulster finals in a row. So like that's incredibly impressive when you think about it. So yeah, some interesting appointments there.
Very much so. Matthew, which ones have kind of stood out to you? Are there any different ones to what Aaron said, or is it more just the same?
To be honest, I would say, yeah, Mark McHugh and Declan Bonner, because of like the probably news around it. Declan Bonner did a decent job at Donegal. I think he will do a decent job at Fermanagh as well. Mark McHugh, like, this is his first big inter-county managerial hot seat, because he was at the backroom team with Roscommon under Davy Burke, and he was with Westmeath under McCabe last year as well. So, and he was part of Maxi Curran's Donegal LGFA backroom team as well a few years back. So he does have a lot of experience in terms of intercounty, but this is his first real big gig, and I think he'll do a decent enough job with Westmeath. Westmeath obviously do with some decent players. They need that bit of stability. I know a lot of Westmeath fans I've been hearing wanted an inside manager because they didn't want the likes of Dermot McCabe just taking the job for 1 year and then going off gallivanting to Cavan, which probably wasn't great from a Westmeath point of view. They'll hope that Mark McHugh doesn't do the same thing, but it depends on Jim McGuinness. Does he want to leave Donegal? Probably, well, there's been no murmurings of it, so I don't think he's going to leave there. Obviously, Bonner there as well. I think David Power with Tipperary LGFA is very, very interesting, considering Tip reached the quarterfinals last year, lost to Meath. I know Meath got to the All-Ireland final, but like that was no disgrace for Tipperary. That was their first All-Ireland quarterfinal since the early 1980s. So you're bringing in a manager now that has won a Munster title with Tipperary at not just senior level, but he's won at a minor level as well. He's won a minor All-Irelands with Tipperary with the men's in 2011 as well. So he's a great motivator. I can get that off David Power as well. I think Gregory McGonigal with Armagh is a very, very interesting appointment, considering he was actually the Armagh LGFA manager a few years back. when they were really one of the favourites for the All-Ireland, that they got the best out of the likes of Amy Mackin, the Blahy Mackins, the Aoife McCoys. They got the best out of these players. What was the problem with Armagh last year is when Amy was injured, Armagh had nobody to step up and replace her after that. I know Amy played a bit of a part at the end of the Kildare game, which they ultimately lost, but for the majority of that game, there was just no spark from the Armagh LGFA team, and they'll be hoping they won't be in a relegation playoff, because I think Armagh would have wanted themselves to be up there in terms of All-Irelands. The LGFA Championship's very, very open. Like Dublin, okay, they have like Hannah Tyrrell stepping away there. I don't know how many years Cara Rowe has left, Martha Bird as well. The Meath manager stepped away in Shane McCormick, so it'll be interesting to see who Meath replace him with. Like Armagh are definitely up there. If they get their house in order, I think Armagh are definitely up there in terms of LGFA, the LGFA Championship. Of course, you can't discount Kerry either. So I think that is the most ideal appointment for Armagh. Bring in a guy that has done well before, and to bring him in again now. He has won a league title with Armagh. They obviously fell well short in the league final against Kerry. They got absolutely hammered in Crow Park this year under new management. So they'll be hoping this kind of management will get them on to bigger and better things. But like some very interesting appointments, especially in the LGFA there. And Keith Higgins, as you mentioned, with the Mayo under-20s. Mayo probably struggled in underage, not just in minor. They did well a few years back. They won the Connacht title with Kobe MacDonald and all them, and Oisin Dean and all them up front. But in under 20, they have not done well. Neither of Galway, to be fair. But you look at Mayo at under 20, like Sligo have done better than them. Roscommon probably have as well. So they need a bit of a bounce at that level. And I think Keith Higgins is the right man to do that. Like, it's quite an interesting dynamic there. You've Andy Moore at the seniors, Keith Higgins at the under 20s as well. So two legendary kind of figures in amongst the Mayo management teams there. So very interesting to see.
Absolutely. So, Liam, is there anyone that wasn't mentioned there that has caught your eye?
No, I suppose because I've been working with Midlands, the Mark McHugh one was the one that kind of just stood out to me mostly. Look, I feel like it's still going to be, it's a big job for him. And look, obviously, he has the experience of working with McCabe last year, so he will know the Westmeath players inside out. And like you mentioned there, if he could get the likes of Ronald Toole back in, it'd be absolutely huge. But yeah, look, that is a big help to him that he has seen what the Westmeath players are like. He knows the task next year, you know, getting out of Division 3, which they are fully capable of doing. And like this, the thing they had, I would still describe it as one of the most unluckiest seasons ever, because they didn't play a bad game this year, but yet they lost nearly every game, you know. But it was just one of those seasons where nothing seemed to go right for them, no matter what they tried. It is the only issue, and it is something that is starting to become more of a factor with outside managers. Like we've seen there with McCabe, or we could see it with another manager soon. You never know. If their county comes calling, do they step away? You know, that is the only worry now. Like you mentioned there, I don't.
They will. They will. Like, yeah. I've a hot take on that. They will. They always will. I've never seen an example where a manager will manage their entire career and not ever want to go back to the county that they actually like. Eamon Cregan won an All-Ireland Fields in 1994, Liam, and he said it was like one of the most bittersweet days of his life because they beat Limerick in the final. You will always still have a draw for your home county, as you should in the game. But in my opinion, whether it's Liam Cahill moving from Waterford to Tipperary, whether it's Ger Brannan moving from Louth to Dublin, whether it's if Henry Shefflin had gone from Galway to Kilkenny, if Mickey Hart had gone back from Derry to Tyrone, guess what? None of you have any right to feel hard done by in those situations. The manager will always go back to their home county because that's the one that they would have grown up wanting to manage. So when you're in certain situations, it makes sense. Like when, for example, when Dublin hired Anthony Daly, we were bringing in a manager who was from a county that was ahead of us in terms of their hurling ability, in terms of their most recent successes, everything like that. Dalo was coming in to boost Dublin hurling up. And once we got up, then it makes sense eventually at the end of the decade. We did go for Ger Cunningham, but it made sense. All right, let's go now with Pat Gilroy. Let's go with Maddie Kenny. And then eventually Neil O'Callaghan. Galway, it has not worked for them to go outside because they are already at the level where they want to be competing for All Irelands. When you're helping to move through the gears, it makes sense to get a manager in from outside. But in my opinion, you can never feel hard done by when a manager jumps ship to their home county. If, for example, it's a Mickey Hart situation where he left Louth to go to Derry, I can understand feeling hard done by in that situation. But if it's to move to your home county, I don't think you, especially like when Westmeath hired a Cavan manager and then Cavan needed a manager, you should have seen that coming. And now that they've hired Mark McHugh, if Jim McGuinness goes in a year and a half and Mark McHugh's done really well with Westmeath, guess who's going to be front runner for the Donegal job? And guess who will definitely take it if it's offered to him? Mark McHugh. Yeah. So, in my opinion, you don't have a right to feel hard done by with these things.
And like, let's be honest, he'll probably get Westmeath out of Division 3. And like Aaron said there, the Leinster Championship this year will probably be the most competitive we've had in years. Like Westmeath could look back on last year and think we should have bet Kildare. We could have absolutely have beaten Louth in a Leinster semi-final. And who's to say they couldn't have beaten Meath in a Leinster final? Like they could easily have won Leinster in the end, really, if this hyper universe had gone their way. But and I know it seems mad saying that considering they ended up losing to Wicklow in the Tailteann Cup, but they just had a total collapse that day, and everything that could have gone wrong for them in the end there went wrong. But yeah, no, look, I still think it's a good appointment. He's had good experience in the past as well. He had stints with the Roscommon senior footballers, the Donegal ladies football team. So it's not like he's even a rookie to a degree. He has experience of being around other counties as well, so he'll know how they'll all manage and like that. I agree with Matthew as well. I think the David Power one is a very, very good appointment. I loved, it's mad saying this as an Offaly man, but I loved his run with the Tipperary footballers in 2020. Sorry, Matthew, I know they won the final in the end, but my PE teacher was on the Tip team, so I was kind of forced to support them on the day. But it was a remarkable run that he had with them. And he always came across as a gent as well in his interviews as well, and very gracious as well. So yeah, look, I think he's a great appointment for the Tipperary ladies footballers as well. Like you mentioned there, getting to the quarterfinals last year. Didn't do too bad in Munster either last year as well. So yeah, look, I think that's an excellent appointment for them. But yeah, there's been no shortage of drama when it comes to managers at intercounty level. And I think the shocking thing is I don't think we're at the end. I feel like there could be a few more to come over the next couple of weeks. I don't know why. I just have a feeling it's been one of those summers.
Yeah, there's no question about it. There's been a lot of jumping ship and everything like that. Peter says, valid point on outsider managers, many out the gap when the home county job is on the table. Not great for the county, left in the lurch after one season. Now, Matthew, I'm going to try this in. Peter says as well, Pat Spillane was spilling the team on the payments to managers recently. Yes, I did see that. Now, again, that's a debate which we definitely will have in the future, lads, because that's a motion that's going to be passed in Congress down the line. I probably would be in favour of talking about it then when we have more information, more facts. Is that something you're cool with?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's move then to the next topic. And Matthew, you threw this into the group chat, so I'm going to let you take the floor with this one. A club debacle in Cork. You were talking about 3 games in a weekend for some players. Any intel that we can get here will be really good, because I'm sure there's some viewers that don't understand fully what's going on with this situation.
So this story was actually broke by Kieran McCarthy, the sports editor from the Southern Star. This involves the Cork Camogie and LGFA championships. So there is a bunch of players playing on the Carbery divisional camogie team that are playing on Sunday evening in the senior preliminary quarterfinal against Blackrock. That's in Castle Road at 6 p.m. on Sunday. But the controversy here is there is a group of girls that some are playing for Clonakilty LGFA club. That's on Sunday morning. So 2 games on the same day. I mean, that's absolutely mad as it is. But before that, on the Saturday, you have Clonakilty Camogie team in the Premier Intermediate quarterfinal. So that's 3 games for some players in 28 hours. And that's absolutely mental in its own right. And there are some players involved in that Carber divisional team as well. There's one particular player playing for Newstown on the Saturday evening at, I think it's 5:30 in the evening. Then on Sunday morning for the Ross Carbery LGFA team at 12 o'clock, that's in North Cork. And then they have to travel down, that player has to travel down to the city to play for Carbery in in the preliminary quarterfinal against Blackrock. So that's 3 games in about 24 and a half hours. That's nuts. It really is nuts. And again, Seamus, you mentioned this point on my own podcast when I was mentioning about the Libby Coppagers and the Hannah Loonies playing games on the same weekend, and the Camogie Association and the LGFA Association not communicating. There's a simple explanation. They're different organisations and they do not budge. Simply, they play them on the same weekend. Camogie and LGFA play on the same weekend. It's the same at national level during the Little National League or whatever, the very Camogie League, and the same in the All-Ireland Series in inter-county level. It's the same down here in Cork. You have LGFA and you have Camogie on at the same weekend. Whereas when you look at the men's side in hurling and football, it's the same organisation. It's Cork LG or Cork GA, the Cork GA County Board or whatever. You have hurling one weekend, that was last weekend. You have football this weekend. You have hurling next weekend. You have football next weekend. So there's no clashes in between. And club, it's even worse because club, you have a lot more dual players because obviously there's a lower number in some of them. You have small clubs, you have big clubs and things like that. And even in out of the divisional Carberry team as well, what chance does it give them in the game against Blackrock when they're already at a disadvantage in terms of divisional sides putting out? So Carberry have only had 1 game right as of now against Shandu. The games against Musgrave and Avondhu were both walkovers because there wasn't enough players. So Carberry have had only 1 game in the Camogie Championship. They were in the preliminary quarterfinal and they were the best. They're probably the best team in the divisional championship. But what they needed was, meaningful games. And then when they get the meaningful game, they have other games happening at the same time or the same weekend. And I think you'd agree with this, lads, without much context, obviously. The 3 games in between 24 and 28 hours is an absolute disgrace, really.
100%.
Well, if any injuries happen, it was just, we could have seen it coming from a mile away. You've absolutely nailed it there, man, in terms of the issues come from the fact that they're 2 separate organizations. They have no obligation to really communicate with each other. They can put the games on whenever they want. If they were the same association, which 2027 was when the GAA, the LGFA and Camogie announced that they would be united by 2027. That cannot come soon enough. That has to happen for all of the codes, because the minute that happens, a lot of the issues that we see around fixtures, around facilities, around all of these things would be sorted, because now we would be forced to communicate with each other. And things like that, whether it's, coverage as well, even tiny little things like the coverage, because if you see there on the Sunday game intro doesn't have any LGFA players. And that is because RTE do not have the rights to show the LGFA games live. So that is why it is not in the Sunday game intro. However, the problem is when you have a young girl, or when you have a girl in her teens or early 20s, or even just a woman who's a casual observer of the sport, they don't know that reason. They don't know that that's the reason why there isn't an LGFA player in the intro. They just think, they're disrespecting the LGFA players. They're not putting them in the intro. Yeah, and that makes everybody look bad. And it also is quite disheartening, I would say, to an LGFA player, especially someone who wants to grow up and have aspirations of playing into county. It's definitely a knock to the confidence. So there is no question about it. It needs to happen, and it needs to happen as soon as possible. 2027 is still a long time away. I would wish that it was tomorrow, but it isn't tomorrow. It's 2027. That will come around quicker than we think it will. And hopefully it will be sorted by then. If it's not sorted by then, it means that there are some key reasons that are dead solid as to why this will never happen. Because it's been given 3 or 4 years of heads up to make it happen. If it fails to happen, it means that there are players in the game who don't want it to happen. And then that's a much more serious debate that needs to be had. But we'll see what happens. We'll move on then. Speaking of LGFA, we'll move on to the LGFA All-Star nominees, which have been revealed. And little surprise, Aaron, I don't know if you want to flex with me here for a minute. Dublin lead the way with 12 All-Star nominees. They're also looking very strong there with 10. And we also have nominees in from teams that reached the semi-final, like Kerry, like Galway. and some splinterings in there from the likes of Armagh, Kildare. What I'm going to do here, lads, so the LGFA All-Star nominees have been revealed for 2025. What I want from each of you lads, if I want two, so what I want from each of you lads is I want 2 shoe-ins for the All-Stars. 2 players that you think are bankers. They have to be crowned an All-Star in 2025. Aaron, I'll come to you first.
Well, look, Hannah Tyrrell obviously is the complete obvious one. I think I'd absolutely, she definitely goes in there. And then Carla Rowe as well. I think they're two absolute shoe-ins based off of this year. I think Carla Rowe was phenomenal really from the quarterfinals onwards. She was outstanding. So and then Hannah Tyrrell in particular, I think for me would probably win Footballer of the Year based off of some of the performances as well, especially in the final. So yeah, those would be my 2 picks, but I'll leave it open to you lads.
Matthew?
One thing before the 2 bankers, I was very interested actually just reading off this. Vicky Wall was named as a full forward nominee, and most of us had her in the midfield in the team. So
she's kind of been playing all over the place, to be fair.
She has been, yeah. But do I see her getting an All-Star now that she's nominated for a full forward rather than a midfielder? Probably not. I think for one, Ailish O'Dowd, considering she's the only Dublin midfielder out of them picks, and she's been absolutely outstanding in kind of driving that Dublin team on in winning kickouts and being a colossal presence in that Dublin team, in my opinion, absolutely outstanding. Another player looking at it is probably going to be, it's a tough one. I'd go Robin Murray actually for Meath. I know Abby Shields has done absolutely brilliant for Dublin and goal, but we talked about Cluxton earlier in the podcast. In terms of LGFA goalkeeping, it's been kind of, shot stopping, few bits of kickouts. That was the be all and end all for the last few years. We've seen Robin Murray this year actually collect possession from her teammates and actually drive her team forward at times. And even the kickouts, Meath actually won most of her kickouts in the All-Ireland final. And she was at no fault for the Dublin goals in the final as well. So I think Robin Murray's a banker as well in terms of that. They'd be my 2. Just as a side note, Carla Rowe wasn't in my team. I don't know, would that be a surprise to Aaron? I just feel like in the earlier rounds, she wasn't as influential as other players. Let's just say, I'm looking at the list here. The likes of Hannah Tyrrell, the likes of
These
even
receipts here, Aaron, you're fucked.
I'll just say nothing. Go on. Continue.
The likes of Kate Sullivan, the likes of Siofra O'Shea, Daniel O'Leary. But even so, Carla Rowe's been named as a half forward nominee. Siofra O'Shea and Daniel O'Leary are both the full forward nominees. They're all shoehorning the full forward ones into the full forward nominees list. I don't know how the LGFA actually do this. Do they do it like any position goes, or they have to stick by one position? It's going to be very interesting to see. But for instance, I would have had Siofra O'Shea or Daniel O'Leary in the half forward line, and they're named as full forward nominees. And I would have Vicky Wall at midfield, and she's a full forward nominee. So it's a bit confusing. I don't know how they're going to do this anyway, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean, if Vicky Wall doesn't get it, it is it's quite astounding. Really unofficial here, says Kildare. Only 1 nomination is harsh, considering they beat Armagh and knocked them out before putting it up to Kerry in the quarterfinal. I absolutely agree. I think Leisha Lenihan, for me, was absolutely outstanding. But then across the field, people like Roisin Byrne were really, really good all year. I think there's definitely cases that could have been made for players like that. So, yeah. For me, my bankers, I'd have to say Hannah Tyrrell, for me, definitely an absolute out-and-out banker. Vicky Wall, for me, should be a banker. If she doesn't get an All-Star, I think that's absolute madness. But if I had to say what my 2 bankers are and be different to what you have said, for me, Leah Caffrey has to be a banker. She was absolutely outstanding. And then Avian Cleary at wing-back for me, I thought was absolutely magnificent throughout the entire year, particularly in the semi-final against Kerry. She was driving them on at a key stage of the game. She got a couple of crucial scores, and then one especially in the second half that was just brilliant. So that would be my 2 bankers. Liam, if you had to be different with your bankers, which are you going with?
Well, I was going to say Siofra O'Shea, but Matthew mentioned her. But I think I think it was if I memory serves me correct, she got 5-10 in 3 games before the semi-final. I mean, that is incredible. And even the way she turned the game against Cork in the second half. I remember watching it, and Cork were on top of Kerry in that game at Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and the way she turned it around for her side was absolutely remarkable. And you know, if Kerry had gone on to the All-Ireland final and gone on and won it, she would have been an absolute shoo-in, in my opinion, for Footballer of the Year, I think, without question. I think she would have done a lot of damage potentially in the final. She's that good of a player. But yeah, look, Hannah Tyrrell absolutely has to be one of them as well. She's been absolutely fantastic all year. I feel Emma Duggan, well, see, Emma Duggan's a hard one. Maybe she's had a few good games, maybe not been as influential maybe as she maybe had been over the past couple of years. Vicky Wall is obviously, for me, still the best player that Meath have. But yeah, I think I can't even say the name now. Help me out here.
He's having a mare.
You're going to say Shay O'Shifra now?
No, I actually will as well. Shifra O'Shea. There we go. I got there. Yeah, no, I think she's an absolute definite. I think as well, Sarah Wall from Meath as well has been very solid for Meath all year as well at centre back. So I think if I was to bank on two, I'd be banking on those two. I'm not saying the name again.
It's like Matthew Zimmer Biomic. Anyway, we've just wrapped that up. The LGFA All-Star nominees. Either way, we will find out when the All-Star ceremony takes place, which I think is in November, if memory serves. I was at the one last year, so I really should know that.
November 15th.
November, yeah. God, I was at the one last year. That feels like it's about 2 months ago. But anyway, Matthew, I'll throw this one to you because this directly affects you, and then we will move on to each of our club games to watch out for this weekend, and then we will wrap the show up beautifully in a nice little bow on the hour mark. Matthew, the McGrath Cup has returned for 2026. It is returning.
Has it? That's news to me.
Well, Joe O'Connor was speaking at a launch there for Fuel Their Game. And I'll get his exact quotes. If you look it up online, it says there will be a McGrath Cup in 2026. Now, let's take a look at what he actually said. So let me get the exact quote. So he was speaking at the launch of Fuel Their Game, and he was quoted as saying this: just keep it the way it is and train away for the league. I just think there's enough competitions, and it's probably a time where players can just focus on getting a pre-season in. If it was there, I'm sure it wouldn't be a big issue, as a couple of games get you ready for the league, but it's nice to have a block where you can just focus on training. So they were the quotes that Joe made about the potential, let's just say for now, potential return of the McGrath Cup. Matthew, I think safe to say me and you have made our opinions pretty clear on the preseason competitions. In my opinion, there is just no room for them, and teams don't take them seriously. And I've witnessed in the O'Byrne Cup, no one in Leinster gives a fuck about the O'Byrne Cup. Like, no one gives a fuck. People win games and then pull out of the competition the next day. Dublin played it, I think, the last 2 years when the entire team was in Portugal, or like away. Nobody is paying too much attention to it. In my opinion, it's adding another competition into an already way overstretched, way too thin, way too packed calendar.
Yeah, it is. And first of all, Cork were actually the holders of the McGrath Cup. So I kind of wanted to end in that kind of standpoint, because we were the last winners of it. But in terms of player welfare, yeah, I'd agree with you, Seamus. Look, I don't think there's any room for it. I think, look, there's the club competitions, there's the Alliance League. What I was thinking with the preseason competitions actually been last year, I was thinking, would you not have the league mid-January and have rest for the players around April, March time? That would make the more sense there. But they didn't do it. Like, by the time, I think the first Alliance League game this year was January 27th or 28th, I think it was this year, which it was very, very puzzling. Obviously, club competitions have to be finished as well. Obviously, the club finals was actually before the Alliance League starting this year. It's the week before, yeah. But and again, not just player welfare, but in terms of the promotion of Gaelic games as well. Because I remember this year, and it's been happening over the last couple of years, you had the Allianz League finals 1 week. The next week, the All-Ireland Championship in the football starts. Where is the drive? Where's the anticipation for the All-Ireland Championship? I remember back, I know we're saying back in the day, like we're oldies, but this was only back in what, 2011, 2012, 2013, when there was about 2 or 3 weeks gap between the league and the championship. And people were getting excited, seeing the Sunday game ads, seeing, the clash of the Ash, seeing that Colin Cooper having a bit of a shoulder with Bernard Brogan or something like that on an RT ad. We were seeing that in the 2 or 3 weeks, and we're getting hyped up for the championship. I know it might have been a crappy game to start with, let's say Donegal against Antrim in 2011, but it was general excitement building up to the championship. But now there's no time to look ahead to the championship. You look at the Allianz League, like before we finished reviewing the game between Kerry and Mayo, we were suddenly into the next week of championship action, which included I think an Ulster Championship game this year between, I think it was Tyrone were playing this year, which, I mean, it's not enough time. It really isn't enough time. And I just think we're missing kind of a trick, because you look at other sports, you look at rugby, the Six Nations, there was a build up to it. We know exactly when it's on, and we're saying, okay, who's going to win it? Will it be Ireland? Will it be England? Will it be France? And we have a 2-3 week build up. The Premier League, look at it this year. You have fantasy football. You have people buying players left, right, and centre. Haaland and Salah, whatever, can't be on the same team. But you had 2 or 3 weeks break after, even 4 weeks break after the Club World Cup ended, and you had time to build it up. There's no room to breathe with Gaelic games at this present moment in time. And I think with the McGrath Cup coming back, or any pre-season competition, it would just increase the problems that we already have at this present moment in time. So I think it's a non-negotiable. You can't have it. You can't have pre-season competitions. And I would beg the GA, please have the Allianz League mid-January, so the players can have a prolonged period of rest in April, and we can actually build up properly to the championship.
Yeah, well said. I think when you look at 2016, one thing that is never talked about is in 2016, the league final between Dublin and Kerry sold out. 82,300 people were in Croke Park to watch the league final that year. It was absolutely packed to the rafters, because the league was completely sold as a different competition. And on top of that, every team in the league that year and around that time, they went for the league hammer and tongs. They wanted to win the league, especially when it came down to the final stages. We were inundated the entire way through the league campaign last year with who really cares about winning the league. Donegal lose a game. Do they really care about winning the league? So then when it came to the league final attendance was terrible, because if you were constantly telling us that the teams don't really care, the competition doesn't really matter, why would fans from Kerry and Mayo make a really, really long and expensive journey to go to Croke Park to Dublin to watch a final that you're being told almost on a daily basis no one really cares about? If you move the competitions further apart, like move the league back into the start of January or mid-January, but just give it that time that the preseason competitions got, and then you have the space between the league final and the start of championship, more teams would take the league serious and go for it, therefore improving the competition, number one, improving attendances for the final, number two, but then also, as you said, Matthew, leaving that gap so that we can properly promote the start of the championship. We experienced it with our podcasts. We experienced it, like we were doing weekend review shows for the league finals and then having to run to do a weekend preview for the start of the All-Ireland Championship the next week. Like, it was so hard to get it all in time before the start of the championship. Moving it back, giving it that space would give every single media company around this country chances to make a whole content schedule to build up to the championship launching, and that would be better for everybody.
I can remember, wasn't it, the podcast you and I did, Seamus, like we were covering the 2 Allianz League hurling finals, and yet we were also covering Donegal Derry in football. Do you know, like there was no chance to, reflect on the league hurling finals, because you had to think straight away about the championship football. Do you know, like that's mental that you can have those 2 sort of games on the same day and at the same time. Do you know, And like, especially say if you were the likes of myself or Matthew, who would have been watching probably the league finals instead of the Donegal Derry game because our counties were involved in it as well, it makes it harder for people to enjoy the start of the championship when it does come around.
Yeah, there needs to be a proper launch. Like there needs to be like a proper like build up to a even press conferences, that kind of thing. I know, like, fair enough, there is that whole thing of players don't want to do media and managers don't want to do media and everything else. But make it more enticing then. Make it a way that it is enjoyable in that way. And then obviously, I know we've all kind of spoken about this in the past as well, but ask the right questions. You know what I mean? Don't be trying to set people up and everything else. And obviously players aren't going to give away tactics. Obviously players aren't going to speak about playing Donegal the next week or Derry the next week or anything like that. But you know, make it interesting. Do you know what I mean? And have like a proper launch, and you know, the GA could do. But look, let's not give them too many ideas.
Well, one of the things that I've seen, which is so effective for me just as a UFC fan, is the UFC do UFC countdowns for every single pay-per-view. Boxing with Canelo and Terence Crawford, they're doing, you know, countdown to their boxing match where they're just showing shots of training and stuff like that. Like, as GA fans, we would absolutely digest training videos and everything like that. We would. And I get you can't go into the camps and show what Jack O'Connor is planning to do this weekend against Mayo. But something where you were just like showing them doing like a free kick drill or something like that. GA fans would really consume that. If you had drills where counties were happy to let you see this. You look at what FIFA had. I know FIFA have a lot of money and everything like that, but like the Captains of the World documentary on Netflix about the 2022 World Cup, that's been done before. Dublin made a documentary about their team in 2006 under Pillar Caffrey. Galway made a full documentary about their All-Ireland win in 1998. Why is there no documentaries been made since about, like, one about Armagh winning would have banged. It would have been absolutely everywhere. One about, you know, Tipperary winning this year, Clare winning last year. Meade's documentary, actually, like Louth's documentary about their All-Ireland Junior LGFA win is doing really, really well. Like, people are engaged. People love watching that content. That's what we want to see as fans. We want to feel like we're really immersed and involved in it. And that's another conversation for another day. Maybe lads will make an episode.
Someone made one a few years ago as well, which was decent. Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, lads. The last RT documentary made from a Gaelic Games kind of live event in live teams was the Dublin LGFA All-Ireland win in 2017. Was that the last one by RT?
I don't know.
I know AIB were involved with Roscommon, was it? When they kind of did like a kind of one behind the scenes. I think that was when they won a Connacht title. Was it in 16? With Kevin McStay being there. But yeah, I think that might have been the last one. Yeah.
Yeah, like Peter says here, lads, we need more GA&T. Remember Breaking Ball years ago? No midweek or Monday night show except TG Car, GA, and Daryl Caneda's old show Friday nights. RT and Virgin, where are you now? Peter says Blues Sisters 2018. I just look at it. I'm like, we had show sports on TG Car. We don't have that anymore. We had Championship Matters on RT. We don't have that anymore. There's so much GA content that we used to have that we don't. And if I look at, like, that was one of the things that was bittersweet about watching that Hell for Leather documentary. That documentary by RT, The Hell for Leather, is beautiful. It is one of the best sport documentaries I've ever watched. I watched one episode and I was hooked. I needed to watch all of them that day, and I did. It was absolutely beautifully made. All of the guests fit in so well, and you felt like you were on the journey with the GA from start to finish. Fantastically made. And you're seeing there going, so that's what you're capable of. You have the ability to do that. Why have we not seen this? Why is it taking so long to do this? Why didn't we have this for Kilkenny's 4 in a row and that 2010 All-Ireland final against Tip, which is one of the most epic matches I've ever seen? Dublin's 5 in a row. Where are the docs?
They even did a great documentary regarding Offaly stopping the 5 in a row in 82 before Dublin won the 5 in a row. Do you know, just to build a bit of hype around that as well, in the prospect that, will we see the 5 in a row this time because we didn't see it back then? Or even, I remember last year before we played Castletown Gagan, they let TG Carr in to get scopes of their training and whatnot, and you know, they're just them poking the ball around, whatever. And it felt sort of personal, you know. It felt like, right, we can get to know these players, and especially from a club point of view, because you might not know a lot of these lads. You know, I feel like people would be indulged by that maybe, and they could see a bit of a personal side to that maybe. But it's also getting the permission from clubs or counties to go into a training ground and show them, you know, poking the ball around without giving too much away. But I don't know.
I think off the ball, didn't off the ball do 2, I think, in 1 year with Wicklow and Clare footballers.
And they banged.
Yeah.
Remember Roscommon's GAs behind the gates?
Yeah.
That went everywhere for a year. All of a sudden, everybody was invested in Roscommon's championship, because especially that bit where they had them have the day where they were explaining why they played for Roscommon. And then the Smith and Downey Smith were talking about playing, and their brother was a big motivation. That made me like the Smith brothers a lot more. Like, it just did, seeing that how much they care and everything like that. So, look, it's definitely a chat for another day. I feel like we could easily go to 2 hours if we keep doing this. But lads, how about that? Sometime soon we'll make a video just called the content ideas and everything like that, what we would like to see in the game. But what we are going to do, of course, what a great example by Peter said. Remember Marooned 2004 and the Grain or Ice speech by Paddy O'Shea, one of the most iconic speeches I've ever heard. So we'll go to what we might have gone to at the beginning, but we're going to it now. Club games to watch this weekend. So given that we're already into an hour and we're about 5 minutes off getting delusional, I'm going to ask you all for your highlight, your game of the weekend that you are looking forward to. Aaron, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of big games in the Tyrone Football Championship this weekend, and Liam, you'll be happy to know Errigal Kieran beat Ardbow tonight, 421 to 17. So, they're looking really strong, to be fair, in Tyrone. But no, the game I'd look at is Tralee versus Dungannon. I think you've got some really, really good players on either show there, like the likes of Paul Donaghy for Dungannon, who's been outstanding the last couple of years. Obviously, Tralee have the likes of Matty Donnelly in there. So some really, really kind of good players. One team I would keep an eye out though in the Tyrone Football Championship is Loch McCrory. Great odds on them. They've got Owen McElhome in their team and a couple of young players in there as well. So I'm just saying, Loch McCrory for Tyrone. We have some potential shocks, thrills, and spills in Tyrone over the last couple of years in senior football championships. They could be a team who might go on a bit of a run, but Errigal Kieran are obviously looking very, very strong, to be fair. And to start like that and to look that good from day one, I think they're definitely the favourites. No,
I feel very, very relaxed now, having seen that result. I mean, it's obviously it ain't over till it's over, but that definitely reassures me to some level. Peter says, my example, I know it's the Kilkenny League final, but I think this is a serious clash between O'Loughlin Gales and Thomastown. Obviously, the two champions from the previous 2 seasons in the Kilkenny Hurling Championship. And obviously, you'd imagine both of them will be going hammer and tongs for championship as well up against Ballyhale Shamrocks. I think it will set the stall out for a huge clash in championship should they cross each other's paths again. But obviously, there's silverware on the line as well. And I think once there's silverware on the line, you get an extra bite to it, an extra edge to it. So I think that one will be a cracker. And that one is obviously live on Clubber TV as well. Liam, your pick for the weekend?
Yeah, I suppose the O'Loughlin Gales and Thomastown game was one of the games I was going to pick out. Obviously, it's a repeat of last year's final, which was one of the biggest. Well, I wouldn't say one of the biggest shocks, but I was certainly shocked. I was at the Limerick Hurling final, covering it for college newspaper, and I was just reading the score on Score Bio, and I had to message my own father and go, "Is that actually the score? Have they messed this up? What's going on?" Like, because I was after watching O'Loughlin Gales all year, and I was thinking, right, well, we'll probably end up playing them in the Leinster Championship if we get out of Offaly. And then you just see Thomastown's results over them, and you're thinking, what? Do you know? And they deserved it on the day. You know, the Donnellys had an unbelievable game that day. Zach Bayhammond obviously is in there as well. But yeah, look, they're both in this at this stage now. Thomastown, I suppose they've got 5 wins out of 5 in their group, which is exactly what they would have wanted. But they have conceded 4-13 in their previous match to Ballycallan, which isn't something that they'd be too pleased about. And then you look at O'Loughlin Gales putting 2-23 and making a good comeback against Ballyhale Shamrocks from the dodgy first half they had, putting 5-19 over Lisdowney. But they were also poor in that first half against Ballyhale. They weren't great in the second half against Dixborough. And I know they rested a couple of players the last day against Bennett's Bridge, and look, it made no difference to them in the end. But losing to them by 3 points isn't the best result for them either. But I do expect them to be much better this weekend. I think they probably will take down Thomastown, and win that match out. They'll certainly be hurting from last year, so I feel like a bit of revenge will be on the cards for them. Excuse me, on the cards for them there. I suppose another game I wanted to highlight, I suppose in Dublin as well, is Lucan Sarsfields and Nafina. And obviously you two would know a bit more than me, but that just has the makings of an absolute cracker. Two teams that are firmly two out of the favourites. I'd say probably two of the three favourites for the Dublin Hurling Championship. So I'd be very, very intrigued to see how that turns
guess
out.
who's commentating on it?
I'm going to guess it's you. And I suppose
I think so.
But one other game I wanted to mention, it's actually not happening, but it's something I wanted to highlight. Road were meant to play Durrow this weekend in the Offaly Senior Football Championship. Now, Durrow, they can't get out of the group. They're knocked out anyway, so it means nothing to them. But what's interesting is because Durrow is the football team and Baldemere is the hurling team. They're the one club but just under different names. But because Baldemere are playing Kilcormac in the Offaly Senior quarterfinal next week, a load of the hurlers have pulled out of playing with the footballers, and they were left with 13 footballers for this weekend, and they had to postpone the match and give a walkover to Road, which is just mental to me. Because I'm just thinking, would you not just look? You could risk getting injured, but it does no help to your own players in terms of fitness. It does no help to Road going forward in trying to progress and win a football championship. And it's just not great seeing a senior team giving a walkover as well for me. Look, I don't mean to be dishing out with them or anything like that, but it just doesn't, it's not a great look. I'll just say that. But yeah, look, for me, those are the games to look forward to this weekend. And nothing against An Gaeltacht, but I would love to see the two Cliffords win Fossa the Intermediate Championship, just so they can go up to senior and ruin more careers.
Matthew?
Yeah, I'm going to put the Munster hat for now on. I mentioned Cork in a sec, but the Kerry Football Championship final this weekend decided by TG Carr, Dr. Crokes against the Gael. This is a very interesting story. The Gael were actually a junior side, I think, in 2019. They moved up to intermediate, they moved up the grades, and eventually they were at the senior final. They beat Rathmore last week. It was a brilliant win for them. German O'Connor's doing brilliant stuff in midfield for them, and they seem to be the surprise packets of the Kerry Championship at this present moment in time. Dr. Crokes obviously won the competition last year. They won the treble. Well, they won the quadruple. They won the league. They won the club championship in Kerry. They won the county championship in Kerry. They won the Munster championship and brought Eric here on to extra time. So Dr. Crokes are a very, very good side. It'll be very interesting to see this final. How will Dermot O'Connor match up with the Dr. Crokes midfield that includes Mark O'Shea, who did very well for Kerry in fairness in their All-Ireland run. So we'll have to see how that all plays out. Gavin White will be in action in this game for Crokes as well as the likes of Tony Brosnan. So it will be a very interesting game there. As Liam mentioned, the intermediate final between An Gaeltacht and Fossa. Obviously, Fossa have the Cliffords. That's well established. And David and Body, you have Emmett O'Shea there as well. For An Gaeltacht, though, from a Cork point of view, you have Aidan Walsh there. Remember him? All-Ireland champion in 2010. He's actually moved to An Gaeltacht in Kerry. So it's going to be very interesting to see that. The reason is actually his wife is a Kerry woman. So yeah, he's moved across the border to play club football in Kerry. So lost to Cantork, but it is An Gaeltacht's gain, and An Gaeltacht do have some good players in and around the team, no doubt about it. In the Cork Football Championship, it's nearly all wrapped up. 5 out of the 6 knockout spots are already decided before this weekend, which is a kind of a shame. But what is an interesting game is involving the relegation. Now, in the relegation in Cork, there was a relegation playoff between the two worst teams, points-wise, in the group stages. Now, one of the effective relegation semi-finals is between two West Cork rivals, 10 minutes drive between them, Carbery Rangers and Clonakilty. Now, the loser of this is definitely in the relegation playoff in Cork. Now, Clonakilty, you might say that's a shot because they brought Nemo Rangers to penalties last year and they went to a county final against St. Finbarrs a few years ago. It hasn't gone right for them. They've lost to Carrigaline. They've lost to St. Finbarrs as well. Carbery Rangers have done the same thing, even though they were the relegation playoff last year. But Carbery Rangers were Cork champions in 2016 as well. So for one of them to be in a relegation playoff in Cork would be detrimental to them in this present moment of time as well. And between these two rivals, they've had 8 championship meetings. Who has won the most between these two? You'd be shocked to hear this. Carbery Rangers. Clonakilty have won 1 game since 2005, and that was in 2006 when Carbery Rangers were a new team up from intermediate. Clonakilty don't do well against them. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see that final as well. You have Castlehaven vying for a semi-final spot. If they do, like Cork, obviously, you have the group phase. You have the first place team will definitely get into the semi-finals. And we seen in the hurling last week, SARS thought they did enough against Lane Rovers. They beat them by 4 points. But in the end, Blackrock beat Douglas by 22 in the other game, which meant that Blackrock took their place into the semi-finals and SARS have to go through a quarter-final. It could be the same this weekend. Castlehaven have a game against Newstown, which you'd imagine will be a tight game. Newstown are a dogged kind of a team, whereas Nemo Rangers have St. Michael's, who could be in relegation trouble, and you have a feeling Nemo will put the accelerator on there. So it will be interesting to see the points difference and how it all transpires there. But a few interesting stories from the club this weekend.
Absolutely. So, and that brings another episode to an end here on Cúilín Media. It's been episode 3 with myself, Seamus Brady, Aaron Prendergast, Matthew Hurley, and Liam White. We thank you to everybody who got involved in the comments. It really, really helped to make the show, from Peter Griffin to Really Unofficial to Gavin O'Reilly to Dublin is Great to, let me just get it up, to Pádraig Lennon, to Cian Guckian. It really, really helped to make the episode an enjoyable one, lads. So thank you so much for getting involved. We will see you on Sunday night at 8 p.m. for another weekend review show. We'll be back to review all of the best action from the club championships across the weekend. And don't forget to DM us, send us what was your highlights from the weekend. Make sure it is included in the episode and discussed. Until then, enjoy the weekend. Agus Torah.
Instinct, baby.